Every so often, I feel like I have to really take that pause and remind my students of my expectations of them. And I've been noticing that a lot in my class, just in the last couple of weeks, where they're really getting comfortable inside the classroom. And there are so many transitions that they have to take from, subject to subject, from location to location. And so really focusing in on how to make a transition and really do it smoothly has been a focus of mine just in the last few days. And I remember actually writing about this on my blog many years ago. I think it was back in 2019 when I was realizing just how much students were really changing, right? And I know that as an educator, if you've been doing this for any number of years, you've been noticing that as well, that students just need a little bit more direction with certain things. And so today I want to offer to you these 4 steps of how to prep and transition your students and really get them back on track with how to transition well into the next activity, the next space, so that their learning can be really effective. What do the arts have to do with learning in SEL? Oh, so much. Join me as we explore the depths of how these things come together through SEAL, social, emotional, artistic learning. We'll look at the mindset, the methods, and the integrations that make SEAL so effective. So plug yourself in. It's time to get inspired. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Inspired Classrooms podcast. My name is Elizabeth Peterson. I'm really looking forward to talking about transitioning today because so much of social emotional learning is helping students to manage themselves. And I'm not just talking about emotions, I'm also talking about helping students to manage themselves in terms of organization and focus inside of the classroom. So what I want to offer you today is these 4 steps for how to help your students make a really solid transition and actually practice these skills so that they can get better and better at them, which is obviously going to help them to get themselves engaged and focused in their learning quicker. So here they are. Let's start with the first step, and that is simply to get everyone's attention. So, just imagine, you're in your classroom, you're asking students to wrap up whatever activity or thing that they're doing, and then you can just see and sense that everyone's kind of like not on the same page. And so a good thing to do is to just get everyone's attention. If you're like me, or if you're like so many normal teachers, sometimes you have this tendency to want to just yell over the entire class. But time and again, that proves to not be the best and most effective way to do things, right? So maybe you have had a nice tool in your classroom, a sound tool, where you can signal to students that you need everybody's attention. For me, I love using a singing bowl. It's one of my favorite SEAL tools that I use in my classroom, not just daily, but like multiple times a day. It's just a beautiful sound that just kind of, just cuts through all the other sounds in the classroom in a nice way, and it really does get students' attention. I also have been, once I use that sound, maybe you have a chime, maybe you have a bell, maybe you have something different. But once I use that sound, I actually do something that for so many years, I really didn't want to because I thought it was so juvenile, so little kid thing. But now I actually use it, and I say to them, once I have some of their attention, I'll say to everybody, stop, look, and listen. And when they aren't all doing that, I'll say it again. in a nice, calm voice for everyone to stop, and I'll wait for most everybody to stop, and then I'll say, look, and then I'll say, listen. And sometimes I'll even use little hand signals to kind of like really emphasize that, hey guys, I'm serious. I need you to stop, look, and listen. It's important for students to know that these 3 simple directions are, and then to actually follow them. So that's why I really will tend to take time to do that and emphasize that. And as you know, I teach 3rd grade now, so the kids take to it very well. And imagine, the first few times using it with older kids, it's kind of silly, but it really does kind of help them to understand that, no, I need your attention. And then I'll actually ask them to meet me somewhere if necessary. If I'm not getting everybody's attention fully, I will say, meet me at the rug, and maybe I'll have them sit down if we have the moment, or if there's a lot of jitters in the classroom and they need to sit down and I need to sit down and talk to them. Other times I'll have a stand-up meeting where I'll just ask everybody to stop what they're doing, come over to me or come over to an empty space in the room so that we can talk and so that I can really clearly tell them my expectations. But it's really important for you to kind of almost gather. And if you don't have everybody's attention when they're all in their own spaces at their desks or at their tables, to take that moment and really get them to gather so that you can emphasize with body language, with sound, with all of these tactile things to really emphasize how important it is that you have everyone's attention. All right, so that's step 1, is to get their attention. And once you have their attention, take a breath. I mean, we can't emphasize enough how important it is to really take that breath. And if needed, take your 3 breaths, because really that magic number is 3. You can do it yourself if you need it. I know sometimes there are times when I need to take a deep breath, and that's why I ask the students to do it with me. You can make sure that they're doing it with you as well. And it is truly amazing. And those of you who have used the simple strategy of taking a deep breath with your students, I'm sure you have also noticed how much of a difference it makes when you do have a classroom of students that takes that time to take a really nice deep breath. Sometimes this is also a great opportunity because, generally speaking, you're going to be in a quiet place when this is happening. It's a great opportunity to draw your students' attention to any sound tracking that you might have going on in your classroom. I know that some of you SEAL teachers out there, those of you who are teaching with SEAL, are doing such amazing work with sound tracking your classroom for instruction time and for work time and group time and all the different moments in your day that really can encapsulate the atmosphere that you want to create inside of your classroom. And when you take these deep breaths, it gives your students just another layer of paying attention to what's going on around them, and the music can actually help to center them and ground them, and it gives them that audible cue, yep, said that right, to really focus in on the present and what they need to do right there in the moment. All right, so after you've gotten everybody's attention and you've had that moment to take a nice deep breath, then it's just time to explain your directions and your expectations. And I think that doing this in a way that is calm and assertive is really important for the students to hear and understand that there are things they need to do in the classroom, and they need to do it quickly and efficiently, and that's how they're going to learn the best overall throughout the day. All right, and then after you do the expectations, of course, it's time for that final step, which is to actually have the students do the transition. And for this, sometimes I'll have the students do it all at once, but if they're really having a hard time, and I'm at the beginning of really emphasizing the importance of listening to directions and making these transitions in an effective way, I will have one or maybe up to 4 students volunteer to make the transition first and really model for the other students what they're supposed to be doing. And of course, well, in my age group of upper elementary, kids are begging to be the ones that can role model how to make the transition really work for them. And then, as more and more students are able to do that, everyone is finally making that transition really, really nicely. And of course, the ultimate goal is to, even if you have to do all these 4 steps every single time, for it to be so quick and so efficient so that you can just make that sound, get everyone's attention, take one quick, deep breath, so that everyone is calm and focused. Explain your expectations or your directions really quickly, and then have the entire class do it all at once. And really establishing these steps every once in a while, not just at the beginning of the year, but whenever it's needed. Like for me, I've needed to reestablish them this past week in my classroom, reestablish them, refocus on them so that students can really understand the importance of making these transitions throughout the day, all year. And it's really, as with so much when it comes to social emotional learning skills inside of the classroom, it's really about practice, 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 so that it becomes part of who they are and how they handle things. And again, these skills of self-management inside the classroom with organization and focus and just plain getting their work done is something that is such a natural place for students to be able to practice these things inside the classroom. And actually, I even have started putting these instructions inside of my substitute notes, so that the substitute, I think, is, maybe I could make a whole other episode about this, but when a substitute comes in, it's important for them to be seen as, okay, now this is our teacher, right? This is our teacher for the day. And giving the substitute the permission to take these steps before every lesson. I know that sounds like maybe a little bit over the top, but I don't know that it really is, because with every lesson, there's another opportunity for the students to kind of derail themselves, or for the substitute to start to lose control over the classroom. And so emphasizing to whoever's in your classroom for that day that they have your permission to gather the students at the rug, have them stop in their tracks and really explain the expectations, and giving them that permission to do that can be such a benefit for them and for your students to have a really successful day. Because when you take the time to follow these steps, or however you want to adapt them for your own classroom, the outcome is really, really great. This is part of this is really embedded inside the 3 C's that are so important for every SEAL teacher. When I think of, strategies like this that become part of your routine, right? This is really where your care comes into play, showing how much you care for your students and the connection. Because when you can help your students to understand these important skills that are really part of life, that can really help you to make those connections with your students and help them to understand how much you do indeed care for them and for their learning. All right, so what are your thoughts? How do transitions go in your classroom? Are you having success? Are there times of year where, tightening up the transitions is a really important thing? I would love to hear from you. I love hearing from you guys as you listen to podcasts and then DM me on Instagram, on Facebook. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I can't wait to hear from you and continue this conversation about the importance of a good transition. All right, have a good rest of your day, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe as we continue talking about arts, learning, and SEL through SEAL, social, emotional, artistic learning. If you want to learn more, go to theinspiredclassroom.com. My name's Elizabeth Peterson, reminding you to get inspired so that you can be inspiring to your students.